Hello.
Hello, how are you doing?
I'm very good. You?
Yeah, all good, man. All good.
Enjoying the summer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice that
It's
it
been
got here.
pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, maybe a bit too hot.
But you've been somewhere even hotter.
I was just in Italy, yeah, and that was like late 30s every day and late 20s every night, so it was pretty
wow.
horrible. Yeah.
Air conditioning?
Air conditioning, yeah, but not that great air conditioning.
Yeah.
I mean, it brought it down to bearable. So.
Yeah.
When it's that hot, it's like, it's taking the edge
And I mean,
off.
at the end of the day, I'm not complaining. Like, I was in a beautiful part of Italy, and we had a swimming pool, and all,
Oh,
you know.
man.
So it's not
Yeah,
like, you know,
yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
pleading like, oh, my life is so hard. That wasn't the case, but it was pretty hot. Yeah.
Was it a holiday or work or?
That was work. I do these residential week workshops where
Okay.
24 people fly in from around the world to spend a week learning tunes, and
That's mental.
we have a band come in, so we learn a tune in the morning, and we do song prep and stuff, and then they have time to go and jam, and then the band shows up, and we spend 2 hours or 3 hours actually all playing with the band. So a lot of these people have never played with a band before, so you get to see this, you know, quite timid people, a bit nervous or whatever, and then this big smile, the smile so big it comes off their face. You know? It's like, I just played AC/DC with a band. That's amazing.
And even the experience of playing, because like we all play along to things, and that's kind of how you learn. But suddenly, when there are other human beings playing the same song at the same time with you, it's like something inside of you explodes. It's
a lot different.
Really crazy.
Well, no, and you can't stop. So that's the biggest thing. So this last workshop, and there's one in September, which is the same format, was specifically done for people like acoustic guitar players, campfire guitar players that have been on my other workshops where we do acoustic strumming and singer-songwriting sort of stuff. And for them to get a taste of playing in a band. And the big difference is that you can't stop. So like if you're playing along with a record, or you're playing an acoustic guitar or a singer-songwriter or whatever, you can fluff a bit and extend it or whatever, or stop, or but if you're playing with a band with other people, that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
You can't just go, hang on, this chord's a bit difficult. Yeah, I got it, let's go. You're not allowed to do that.
It's like you're running in front of a car, and if you stop, the car just runs you over.
Yeah, that's a pretty that's a brutal. Yeah, maybe you should do that.
Particularly when you're in front of an audience, like that's what happens. You just get run over, and then you kind of have to dust yourself off and start running after the band.
Yeah, except it's not fatal.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
Yeah, you might feel a bit embarrassed, but that's
Yeah.
probably the worst that can happen.
But it doesn't happen, hopefully, as often after you've had it happen once. Like when you make
That's true, but I've seen the Rolling Stones have a train wreck at Wembley. They're playing Street Fighting Man, and Mick Jagger went to a chorus where the rest of the band didn't, and it all just went like they all started following each. It was just like a proper train wreck. Like the drums kept going, but everything else was like falling to pieces. And Keith put his hand up, and within a second, they all just, everyone that was available all kind of gathered around him, and then when they split up from this little circle, everything was bang on again. So he must have said, right, when we leave, we're in the verse, 3, 2, 1, or what, you know.
Right.
And he fixed it straight away. So
That's cool.
he was obviously, he's the boss.
Yeah.
In
But
the Stones,
they didn't just say, okay, we messed it up, let's...
Didn't acknowledge it.
No, oh no. But it wasn't that like, yeah, I was going to say only Stones fans would have noticed, but probably everyone there would have been a Stones fan, but you know. I've seen Neil screw up as well at Hammersmith Apollo. He started a tune with the wrong harmonica, went through the whole intro or whatever, and then started playing and just stopped and went, sorry.
I love it when that happens though.
Yeah.
It's
human.
Yeah,
You know,
it makes you feel sort of like this big venue then becomes really small. You're kind of, you've got that connection with this, you know, artist.
Yeah.
You know, and then they are not this superhuman thing. They mess up. And you know, messing up is all it's. That's the way you learn.
Yeah,
I think.
Absolutely.
And it kind of makes you feel more like you feel when if you're listening to an album and it really connects with you, and then sometimes you go and see them and it feels like almost there's more separation, but then when they suddenly become fragile and human, then that level of intimacy
funny,
kind
I
of
think
ratchets up again.
It's interesting. The live versus recording thing as well is interesting, because what's on the record is the best version of that thing that's ever been. So we can somehow develop a false sense of how good these people are, because what you listen to on the records is the pinnacle of that thing, and you forget all of the hard work and mistakes and comping and tuning and everything else that went in to produce that thing. You know, I think the guys that I really rate like that have another level of stuff that comes out live. So the recording was the pinnacle of that particular event, but they've got this other, Neil's like my all-time favorite musician of all time or whatever, and he's got a thing where live it's sometimes a bit croaky and the arrangements are a bit funny and it doesn't always work, but there's this other thing that takes you, that's like this, it's almost like he can wrap you up in the music when it's live in a way that doesn't seem to work on the records as well. But
I've been a fan of Neil Young for a long time, but you must have read Shaky. Just the way that he kind of just plugged away at it, just kept doing gigs. Anyone who'd have him for a gig, he just kept doing it, and you get good. That's the 10,000 hours thing, isn't it?
I thought a more modern example is Ed Sheeran. Like he was playing everywhere. He was recording it. He did some recording at Stanley House. Apparently I've seen him playing in the coffee shop. In the coffee shop was upstairs, but I don't remember it. But the joke that some of the guys that were working with him were just saying, like, he plays everywhere. Anyway, don't open a present because he'll be sitting there. It's like, and that probably shows pretty well. He's like. Not many people, even probably Neil, would struggle to entertain 80,000 people at Wembley for a night completely on his own.
Yeah.
I mean,
it depends who the audience was, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
If it was an audience of me and you, he probably wouldn't struggle.
No, absolutely. But I wonder if he's ever done gigs that big on his own, like proper arenas. Because I've only ever seen him do solo, big theatres, but theatres, not arenas. Not sure Neil Young stuff works in an arena solo.
That's
not like he uses a looper pedal or.
Yeah, I mean the Crazy Horse stuff.
Would. No, that's definitely done. But massive arenas.
Yeah, but not the solo stuff.
Yeah.
And moving clumsily on.
Yes.
So talking about getting into music and how you get, when I look back on where I've come from. Where I was at like 19 or whatever, I'm just like, if I had told myself then, you're going to be doing this in 20 years' time, I wouldn't have believed it. What was it that got you? Because we're talking about artists who, like, it's in their DNA. They've just got to. Ed Sheeran's got to get his guitar out and he's got to play in front of people. Was there a moment or a period of your life where that kind of bubbled up in you, and you kind of felt, okay, well, this is just what, or maybe even didn't think that that's what I'm going to do. It's just that it.
Yeah, so
started happening.
I started when I was really little, like playing ukulele or potentially guitar as well. No one seems to remember exactly, but Mum and Dad said that I used to get really excited about guitar on telly. So if somebody was on the telly, I was really little and I'd just run up to the telly and get super excited about it. So they thought, we should get him something. So they bought me a ukulele, which I don't think I really played. I think I was like 5 or 6, but apparently I just used to walk around with it all the time and just strum it, but not actually doing things. And my guitar journey started at primary school, so I was like, must have been 8 or 9 or something like that. And there were guitars there, and I pestered everyone that I wanted to play guitar, but you weren't allowed to play guitar until you'd proven that you were into music by learning recorder. So you had to do a year's worth of recorder first, and if you were good enough at recorder, then they'd let you learn guitar. So they bought me a recorder and they gave me the recorder book, and then I spent the first holiday period. We have this 2-week or 3-week break after first semester, and I learned the whole book. So I went back in the next term and went, I can play everything in the book, can I play guitar now? And they were like, okay, that's fine. So I did the guitar class, and they gave me a book, and then my nan bought me a nylon string guitar. And in the next holidays, I learned everything in the guitar book that was the next year's worth of stuff. Because I was just into it. I didn't do cricket or whatever, stuff that the other kids were doing in the park. I was just into doing this thing. And then, so I came back to school again and went, okay, I've done everything in that book. What do I do next? And the teacher was like, okay, you need some one-on-one lessons with me now. So he used to give me one-on-one coaching, and then my parents was like, yeah, he's obviously really into this. Let's. You can have some private lessons in the town, and that's how.
That's really cool.
So I never had a choice. It was always and I feel really lucky like that I just never. There was never anything. Well, my dad was insisting I went to university, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to do classical music school, which was the only option in my town, or art school, because I also got accepted to art school. So I was like, but you know, I think realistically my art was pretty crappy, and I could have got it. It's like not.
So did you were those twin passions, or did you just get into art school because that was something that you did?
Because I wasn't really, I was into painting and design stuff, particularly lettering. I was a bit obsessed with lettering and
so like
I
illuminated stuff. Or
no, I did like. I did a sign writing course when I was quite young, because I just liked the shape of letters and stuff. So I did a bunch of that, and then the art stuff I was doing at college was font-based exploration, so like art, but with using letters and shapes of letters and stuff. And that was kind of weird enough for them to say at art school I could go if I wanted to, or whatever. But you know, I look back at it now, it just looks funny. Like it was very teenage, you know, like teenage poetry. If you look at teenage poetry, you go like, I can't believe that, you know, like, you know, I'm so in love, it fits like a glove, and there's a dove and all that, you know. So it was the artwork equivalent of that, I think, you know. So I'm really glad I didn't pursue that. And I loved doing classical guitar in the end.
Did you spend as much time on that as you did on the guitar, or so? Okay, so
no, I was into guitar all the time. So when I was 12 or 13, I started playing in a band with all the guys were a lot older. I was really lucky; they were super protective. So I was playing in like bikie clubs, and you know, like you know, pretty hardcore stuff, playing AC/DC and Rose Tattoo and like Australian rock music. And the guys were just great. They just loved that I played guitar, and I think they enjoyed the fact that there was this little kid with a, you know, he had a bowl cut, you know, and but I was into it, and I could do it, you know. And so while they were all out, you know, taking loads of drugs and drinking a lot or whatever, I was never allowed near that. So they'd all be smoking joints or whatever, but I was never, you know, if somebody put it near me, it was like, no, he's too young, piss off with that, you know. Or in the bikie clubs particularly, they were so protective, you know. They'd like be beating each other up and really heavy duty environments, but if anyone went near me, it was just like, leave the kid alone, you know. So I was like,
that's really cool.
I got into this kind of interesting environment. So I've been doing that, you know, pretty much my whole life. So there was never, even if I was into the art stuff at college, I was in a band, and we, you know, had an original band playing this. I was really into sleaze metal. So at college I used to wear like leather pants and cowboy boots. This is in Tasmania, right? Pretty backwards. No, I shouldn't say it's backwards, actually. That's not fair to Tasmania, because Tasmania is a great place, but it's not, it wasn't super forward thinking, let's put it that way. So, you know, I often feel a bit embarrassed now if I see photos like, seriously, I was wearing like leather pants, cowboy boots, ripped up shirt. My mate used to draw tattoos on, you know, so I'd look like Axl Rose. And I had really long hair. I used to dye my hair slightly red like Axl, and studded wristbands, the whole silly shit.
So you stuck out like a sore thumb.
Well, me and the other 5 or 6 of us that were into that stuff, so I guess,
funny.
you know.
Oh, wow.
But
and was that conscious, or do you think subconscious decision to try and separate yourself from everyone else, or was it just the vibe of what you were into? I think
teenagers do that. For me, it was a bit of the. Earlier than that, I really rebelled against a lot of the 80s music stuff. I just couldn't stand that whole thing. It just didn't. I didn't like it at all. The whole new romantics thing was just like, I hate this music. It just doesn't do it for. Like I don't mean to be disrespectful of it now, because I can appreciate it now. But at the time, I just hated it. You know. Yeah. So I went backwards and was into, you know, earlier heavy metal or whatever. That was, you know, in Iron Maiden and Deep Purple and whatever, you know. And then punk. I was really into punk music for a long time. So the Exploited and the Pistols and all of the Clash and the Dead Kennedys and that thing. And that was all part of this rebellious thing, which was kind of curious for me, because I was studying. I was into studying and organising and learning stuff, but the music I liked was all kind of anti-music. Yeah. So I knew how to play major 7th chords, but would I play a major 7th chord? You know, it's like
that's really
I was much more into the attitude and the expressive part of what was going on in music, but the intellectual part of me wanted to know all the, you know, scales and chords and shit, you know. So it was this funny. I had these 2 parts of me that was always. And I still battle with that now. Like when I write, I want to write, you know, feeling music, but my head is all understanding and analysing and transcribing and writing stuff out, and you know, I love all of that part, but for me that's got no place in the music making process. The music making process for me is about fucking it's got to be really felt, you know. The analysis stuff is really interesting, but that's for later.
And like you said earlier, it's visceral, isn't it? The music creation thing is definitely visceral. And I mean, this is completely nonsense armchair psychology thing, but maybe because you spend a lot of your time doing the analytical thing, that side of your brain kicks in as soon as you kind of pick up a guitar, and so it's working out a way to kind of turn that off a little bit.
Absolutely. I love things where I stop thinking about music or hobbies and all of that sort of stuff. I don't like, because it tends to be there all the time, like just especially if there's music on or whatever, I can't help but start thinking about what's going on. You know,
definitely. When I'm building, and you're the same. If I've got it's not a boring task, but something that I've done a lot of times, and I can kind of do it standing on my head, is easy to get distracted. Rather than put music on, put an audiobook on.
Or a podcast or something.
Or a podcast, or just some kind of spoken word, because then you're not analysing, well, I wonder what he's using to make that noise. Or what was that interval, or whatever it is.
I find myself thinking about that stuff though, even if it's not on. And I find that a bit like.
But is that because it's not that, and that's why I put an audiobook on, so that my mind is distracted enough that I don't think about it. Because exactly the same thing. If you're doing a task which you've done 1,000 times, part of your brain needs to be occupied doing something else, and if there's nothing to engage it, then exactly what you said happens. You start thinking, and then you made a mistake or whatever.
It's like when I used to play a lot, you'd be doing the same set like week in, week out, and you'd get to the point where you're playing it, going through the motions, you're performing, everything's sounding great, but your brain is doing your tax return or something else, and then you kind of just go, finish that thought, and it's like, oh, where the hell am I? And that's when you make a mistake, and then because you've made that mistake, you then like, it's just like falling over. But it's just having your brain wander.
I think it's about engaging, like that is, I think in a lot of cases, for like performance anxiety, in my own experience with that sort of thing, is based on not being in the moment and then being somewhere else, about worrying about things that aren't to do with what you are doing in that exact moment when you're playing. You should be, I try to be, that's not to say like everyone can, because it's easier to say it than to do it, but you've got to try and be exactly present, thinking about only the things that are happening in that moment, and that's where the really beautiful stuff happens, I think. As soon as you start worrying about your tax return or what's going on there, or whether you know what people think about this, or whether they like this, or whether you did that wrong, or did I do a good solo there, or was it, you know, all of those things are counterproductive to the music making process. And I think that's part of the aim for me, at least, you know, currently when I'm playing or writing or doing anything, I'm trying to, the task is to turn all of that stuff off as completely as I can, and just be completely absorbed in the place where I'm at, you know.
And that's kind of, I mean, you could say that for the whole of life, really, couldn't you? Because it's our attention span is so short nowadays, and certainly social media doesn't help that. And I can't remember who I was listening to, something or other about when you distract yourself by looking at social media and then go back to your task, there's like an inertia which carries on from your distraction, and so now you go back to your task, but there's still a part of your brain which is distracted, and I don't think it's healthy. I use social media because I have to, and because it's part of my work and people want to watch it, but I really try and avoid it as much as I can myself. I'll look at Instagram while I'm on the loo or something like that as a replacement for looking at a book or a magazine, which I will, but I really try and avoid it the rest of the time when I'm, you know, I never look at social media in bed. That's like, or whatever. I know lots of people are just like, it's the first thing they do when they wake up in the morning. They look at it, you know, what's it, you know, like, really? I want to just like let my head settle in on what's going on in the day. Where am I at today? What, you know, what's going on? What, you know, what does my day hold for me? I don't want to know what such and such is doing in you know,
wherever around the world, and I think it breeds all of these social feelings of inadequacy. You know, that we
Absolutely.
see these pictures. I get it still when I'm looking. So it's like, all my friends are doing these things. They all know each other, and they all doing this, and I'm not in the circle because I'm not doing that thing. And then, wow, he's doing that job, and he's got this guitar, and he's got those pedals, and oh, my life is so meaningless because I haven't done anything like that today. You know, and it's like we don't see all of the other.
This is
things.
I'm kind of I've ranted at pretty much everybody I know about this. I mean, I think social media can be used and should be used as like a warts and all thing, because you see just what people want you to see. I mean, I don't use it as a personal thing. I use it purely as a business thing. Yeah. But when we make mistakes, we show it. When, you know, if I've got something going on in my personal life that's not going too right, I talk about it. And I think there's going to be people out there that are going through similar things or have been through similar things, and just knowing that some other, idiot in my case, has been or is, there's just that feeling of it's not you, that kind of dark. You know, I mean, going a little bit sort of deep and dark quickly is when you're in that kind of dark place, when you know all this negativity is around you, which most people, you put it on yourself, you feel on your own, you feel completely isolated. So the more you can hear or see people talking about it, that they've been through it, or they know about it, or they give a monkeys about it, all this kind of stuff, it's just trying to sort of chip away at that kind of, you know, the black dog thing. And yeah, it's just making this awareness about that kind of stuff.
That's flipping what you were saying on its head, basically, isn't it? Because it's saying, okay, well, I'm going to put my worst foot forward and say, it's okay, we all have bad feet. And, you know, it's cool. Don't believe that everything that I do is perfect and wonderful and I'm achieving all of this stuff.
And I'm just going to play down, I agree with you completely. The format of those kind of things are designed not to favour that.
No, I know.
So that's part of the thing. The things that get the most likes are the things that are going to end up in your feed because of the algorithm. And if you're putting up, like, you know, something bad or whatever, a negative thing, most people aren't probably going to like it. Not because they don't appreciate the fact that you've put it there, but it's just like, I don't know. I don't like everything. I just scroll through stuff, and I tend to only ever like stuff or heart things that are not worthy of a like. That makes it sound really funny. I don't mean it in that way. Like a special thing that somebody's done or doing. You know. So in some way, actually, I would probably like someone that put something personal up because I'd commend it. Like, that's a good thing to be putting forward. But I don't think most people do that.
No, but I think I see this kind of stuff. This is like legacy thing. This is like long-term stuff. You know, I know people like look at like all the likes and the engagement and stuff. That's a short-term thing. It's like, you know, it's like having a smoke or having a drink or whatever. Long-term, you know, I have people now phone me up. I mean, I've got customers I've known for like 20 years, and they phone me up and they talk to me about crap that they're going through, or just it's like, yeah, thanks for doing that. I was feeling like this, you know, I've been fighting addiction, I've been doing this, that and the other. So I want, when I croak, hopefully when I'm a lot older, you know, I want more people to be able to do that, not with me, with anybody. You know, it's that kind of, it's just talk.
I think we're in an interesting generation. I don't know how you are. I'm mid-40s. How are you?
44.
40, okay. So
yeah.
Okay. So we have to also realise that we're not the same as the current generation of kids. The kids that are growing up with having only known social media, and I think that we have a different perspective on it because most of the people in our age group are posting all of these, fanciful photos of holidays and the highlights, life highlights on social media. But I just discovered this thing called TikTok.
Yes, I've seen that.
Okay, so TikTok is kids showing the real shit, and I was really impressed. I downloaded just because I heard it's the most downloaded app in the world at the moment for kids under 25 or whatever, and there was some tagline that hardly anyone over the age of 20 understands what it is, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna
Throw it down.
Exactly.
What is this?
Yeah, well, I was a bit like, really, 15-second clips? These don't make any sense. But then I said, like, actually, these are real things. These are girls going, man, I've got all of these spots or whatever, and all of even on Instagram, the younger musicians that I follow who are making music that I like are posting social media pictures going, I can't believe I'm 25 and I've got the face of a 13-year-old with all of this acne and stuff.
Yeah.
And that would never have happened.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know any women my age that would be confident enough to do that kind of photo, you know, and I think that
apart from Shirley Manson, because she's done that.
No, I'm sure there are. I'm sure there are exceptions.
I
but I just mean
totally accept that.
generally.
Yeah.
But the kids are like, you know, screw that. This is
That's
they're
really
real,
great.
and that's how they're connecting more. I feel like they can see the mistakes that we're making better than we think they see it. We're like, the poor kids, they've got no childhood, they're all full of anxiety and they're all panicked about, and I think the kids are like, man, give us some credit here. You know, like, we all rebelled against our parents to some degree in generations, and they're doing it, their way is going like, look at all you guys worrying about all of this stuff and posting all this fancy stuff on your Facebook, you old bastards.
Yeah.
Back to your MySpace.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, exactly. I think I've got more hope now for the younger kids. There's more that, you know, they care about the world a lot more than we did. There's more of them are vegans and vegetarians, and they care about the environment, and they're, you know, I think that we should trust a little bit more that they're going to be better at not screwing stuff up than our generation's been. I kind of have to hope that, otherwise we're all just
Screwed.
you know? But yeah, so I think that there's hope for it, and that we have to worry a bit about our generation with that sort of stuff and awareness of mental health and those things, because I think the kids are more together about it than we are, more open to talking about it, more honest with themselves and honest with other people about things. I don't know, that's how I see it anyway.
I hope so.
I hope so, yeah.
Well, there, I'll get down off my high horse.
Yeah, no, dude, that stuff's important. You know,
man,
you know.
that's 100% important.
And I think you're right. And I mean, I still, when I do look at particularly Instagram, it is mostly beautiful people doing beautiful stuff, and I'm guilty of it as the next person. Like, I post photos of here, look, we're doing this amazing workshop in Italy, and look at all of these people having a great time, but I'm not posting the one of me at 6 p.m. going, man, I am so wrecked. I've been teaching for 6 hours and I'm exhausted. I really don't want to go for dinner with all of these lovely people and eat amazing food and drink wine with them, because actually I'd rather be asleep because I'm
the tank's
exhausted.
empty.
You don't, you know, I'm not going to post that. I mean, possibly I should, but that's not. It's kind of not the point of it to me. It is the point of Instagram is showing off blingy shit to people. That seems to be the
well, and because it's image based as well, it sort of lends itself to that, doesn't it? Yeah, because people want to look at nice things. They don't want to look at ugly things.
It's the same as very rarely do you get an ugly pop star, and it's not like, I'm not saying that it's not possible for, you know, Elliott Smith or whatever is, you know, probably not the poster boy or whatever, but made incredible music, made it fairly successful. But most of your John Mayers and the, you know, your Ed Sheerans or whatever, they're good looking dudes that, you know, they've got good taste in clothes, they know how to dress themselves, or maybe they've been taught, I don't know, but whatever, they
present well.
They're an aspirational character as well as writing this beautiful music, and I think that's one of the things about the really big stars, is that they offer that aspirational thing as well as connecting to every person. They've found a way through the music to connect to all of us. But you look at it and go, oh man, you know, if I had that much money, wealth, good look, talent, I don't know.
But are they happy though? You know, are they happy? These good-looking rich people doing
I don't
music.
know.
Are they happy?
Making amazing music and changing the world.
It's the problem is that depending on how you're getting the music to the people and spreading the word or spreading the music, it's the music has got to connect with people on some level. And so, like what you're saying, it's got to be kind of visceral and gutty and spirited and all of that stuff. And that connects with people in a completely different way than whatever superficial pop music does. And I suppose it depends why you're consuming music, you know, what you're consuming it for, what need you want to fulfill.
You've raised an interesting point. I'm not 100% sure I agree in that I love visceral music and I love music that's made with a lot of passion, but a lot of people don't give a hoot.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's why like pop music becomes popular. Music and is so popular is because a lot of people don't have that kind of connection with music on that level. For them it's just like, do they like the surface layer
the sound of it?
So does this sausage of sound please me? And they're not beyond that. They're not into. Lots of people don't listen to the lyrics of stuff at all. I'm like, how can you listen to that song about these things and not understand that that's what it was about? The Christians all go, take me to church, you know. And it's like, did you listen to the words there? It's not a happy church song, you know. So I think that, you know.
But that's, I obviously didn't express myself very well. What I meant was, it depends why you're consuming the music, for what reason. So for what hole you're want, or what need you're trying to fulfill with it. So the pop consumers are consuming it on a fairly superficial level, whereas the people who are consuming the more visceral music, for want of a better expression, are consuming it on a completely different level and will get a lot more out of it potentially.
And it can cross over.
And it, of course, it's a continuum. It's not binary, one or the other. But you know,
because you get those freaks like Ed Sheeran, who writes those beautiful songs like Small Bump or whatever, those things, or 18, which are really interesting social studies and beautifully written songs that work on an acoustic guitar, but he puts these amazing productions on and they become international hits because the people who just want to listen to the surface have a very pleasing surface, but the guys that want to dig a little bit deeper are like, there's some heavy stuff going on with this dude.
And that's where works of art turn into genius, when they do work on multiple levels. But I can't remember why we started talking about this now. It's about, you know, the way that people present and that kind of stuff. The visceral stuff, people are not so concerned about what it looks like, because it's not a superficial thing. It's like, well, am I feeling it there? And so and I think, you know, because of the way that media, internet, all of that stuff means that you can get stuff out there. If it's a word of mouth thing, then it matters less what you look like. But as you said, you know, the superficial thing is going to be attractive very quickly to a lot more people, and therefore the kind of people that are being sold by big labels, big companies, are going to have to look good because they want to hit as many different points of attraction as they possibly can. So
packaging is key.
Packaging is key.
I mean, it is. You know, it's like for all of us, how we package ourselves and how we package our products is important. You know, I'm sure you spend a lot of time thinking about your logo and the design and the style of your room. And I was saying, you know, it's like my barber. That's a conscious thing, that artwork that we choose to adorn ourselves with is part of our character, as part of our self-expression. And those things have to be, it's how we're displaying ourselves in the world. So that stuff is actually kind of important for all of us, our own personal identity and how we feel about ourselves and the type of person we want to project, because it might not always be who we really are. It should be, I guess, but it's
you always want to make people think the best of you.
And if you, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
No, of course not. You know? But if you heard, were witness to all of my deepest, darkest thoughts, you would think, oh my gosh, that guy, I'm never going to spend any time with that guy. And likewise, you know, I'm making an assumption here, but probably the same for you and you.
Which leads, interestingly, back to our social media chat, that if we only want people to think the best of us, we're probably not going to be posting the stuff that's not showing the best of us. Just as an interesting, I've only just thought of that, but that's an interesting little comeback on it.
No, it's you're right, but I still think I still think sharing that stuff, it's a strength.
I'm just going to throw this out there, but that could be an expression of yourself.
Yeah.
Which is a really positive, great thing.
Yeah.
That you're expressive, and that's important, and it's good to encourage other people to be expressive too.
Yeah.
But if somebody's not expressive, maybe that's not for them.
No,
they shouldn't be sharing that sort of thing if it's not in their.
No, you've got to. I mean, I think one of my things. I mean, 4 or 5 years ago, I wasn't like this at all.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't even. I'd do a gig at a wedding and I couldn't even speak to the bride after, who was saying like, "Oh, it's amazing, it's so good, thank you so much." I'd be like, I was like riddled with with anxiety, all that kind of stuff. But one of the things that it was a bloke I met with last night actually, and it was a weekend. My wife had gone away, and she had invited him over without me knowing to look after me because I was like so down, and she was really worried about me. And he was there. We sat around the table, had a few beers as you do with your mates, and he was just sort of told me that Laura got him in, and I was just like, oh, what, how? And he was. And I was just like, he literally patted me on the back. He was like, "All right, mate, just have a little cry. It's okay." And he was talking, and he was just like, "What? You just don't talk." I never said anything about how I felt, what was going on. My default was just to shut off and to, not upset anybody and just be like this. But by doing that, I was like, giving myself a kicking, and I was hurting people by not doing it. So, and I went through lots of stuff, but the thing that flipped it for me was opening up and was talking about it. And I bore you stupid about it all the time, and it's just.
Gosh.
No, but it's once you've starting a conversation or thinking about starting a conversation, that's the hard part. That's the bit where the nerves and everything.
Yeah.
As soon as you've started that conversation, it just becomes a conversation, and you can. That weirdness kind of goes away and dissipates, and so it's a selfish thing for me, I guess. But sharing that, and it's just the fact that I know it with every part of my soul. It helps and helps me, and if somebody else can see that, and maybe it sparks something, it's just.
It's funny. I totally agree. What you do, talking about it is a really important thing, and I think it's a great thing to do. I suffered anxiety issues most of my life over different things, and the two key ingredients for me that I wouldn't say I'm completely out of the woods, but that helped significantly were meditating and mindfulness. I think that I'd spend at least 10-20 minutes a day sitting on my own, concentrating on my breathing, trying to get just completely in a place where I'm not thinking about anything. And I've talked about this before, and I don't want to. I almost feel like I'm a Scientologist sprouting off about it. But reading about Stoic philosophy, I think, is a really powerful tool for me that made me accepting of other people's issues and my own issues, and seeing things in a much more balanced way. And that's become part of my everyday life, is reading the works of the great Stoics and just finding these little nuggets that are like, God, why didn't I think of thinking about on a basic level things like problems. Like if there were no problems, there's nothing to do in life. Life is about problems. That's it. Otherwise it'd be like a video game where you're the character and there's nothing to do. You just go in. Okay, I've got to be there. Is that it? Right? No, you've got a problem. You've got to find a thing or do a thing or collect something or do. So. In life, there are of course problems that we don't want to deal with, but without any problems at all, there's nothing to do. There's no point, kind of thing. So, as soon as I kind of dealt with the fact that okay, there are different problems. There are problems that I'd rather not be dealing with, and other problems that I think are kind of fun as a challenge. But it's just a problem. So I've got this problem today. Well, it wasn't my favourite one, but it's okay. I'll get over that and I'll deal with this problem, and then I've got better. I've got more points in my computer game for having dealt with that horrible problem. And those kind of things that people were talking about, 1,000 years ago. Those realising that it's an eternal thing, that people have had those feelings since people were people. It's like, oh yeah, okay. And there were some pretty clever dudes back then who figured out some stuff that can help us still. That was a real turning point.
I think probably what regardless of the Stoicism, the point about being mindful and actually thinking about all of that stuff is the most important thing that you do. Because most people just don't, like, they're distracting themselves from whatever, you know, realities by being busy, and I'm absolutely guilty of that. I try to set aside time, and I do a bit every day, but not as much as I probably could do, and it's easy just to get sucked into the stream of busyness and stuff that the way that we live in the West now.
I find it's for after lunch for me. I just have, like, after I've had lunch, I go back to the studio and I've got a sofa and I just sit on the sofa and I usually use the Sam Harris app or whatever, you know, or sometimes I do it on my own, but, you know, if I'm feeling, like I need some encouragement, I highly recommend the Waking Up app by Sam Harris, fantastic meditation teacher, and that's just a way of, it's only 10 minutes or 12 minutes or whatever, so I can spare 10 minutes no matter how busy I am, so 2 people aren't going to get a reply to their email today. Although we're still here. Nobody's hurt, it's okay,
Yeah, it's true.
The fairy has died.
But it's forcing yourself to actually set the time aside and say that, and it's getting out of that stream of busyness.
Well, it was funny, I found that it was a lot easier for me to make time to go to the gym in the morning and look after my physical health than it was to deal with my mental health. Because me going to the gym means that, like, I book the classes in advance and we get 100 burpees if we don't attend the class if you booked it. So, and
you're accountable.
Yeah, I'm accountable to them as well as to me. So I wake up, 6 o'clock or whatever, okay, I've got half an hour, I get to the gym and I do it and then come back and deal with the rest of my day. But I didn't even think about it. But my mental health, just as important, if not more important than my physical health, I was struggling to find 10 minutes. It was like, I had to give myself a stern talking to. Dude, you got to deal with this bit as well, So that's kind of
burpees.
Exactly. Brain burpees. There's got to be an equivalent. I don't know what it is. But
spelling bee or something. I don't know.
Counting backwards from 100 in
Latin.
Incremental. In Latin.
Well, I can't count to 10 in Latin forwards.
Nor can I. Can't count anything in Latin.
Just have to start.
No, all right. Yeah, there we go. Here we go. That's next challenge. Next time we meet, we have to speak to 10 in Latin. There we go.
Yeah.
What do you want to do? Because you've got to shoot, haven't you?
Yeah, I was meant to go about half an hour ago. But I've stupidly. There's another meeting which I've got to do, but you guys carry. It's been amazing.
It's been really cool. I mean, this could go on for hours and hours and hours.
It really, really could.
Do you mind if
we should have a few beers?
Definitely.
Do a beer cast.
Now we're talking. Yeah. Find a brewery.
Oh, there's one in Hanwell.
Oh, is there?
Yeah, and they're guitarists.
Right.
Yeah, they have like
the stars are aligning.
I know. We need to do that.
Okay. Let's do a part 2.
Yeah.
I'll bring some of my philosophy books down and a guitar. You bring guitars and we'll have a little play, a read, and drink some beer.
Yeah. But on that philosophy thing, I mean, because I do a similar thing with like podcasts and stuff. I mean, I'm dyslexic as hell, so reading for me is really tricky. Right. But I listen to there's like kind of business guys and there's like Tim Ferriss and Gary Vaynerchuk and all those kind of guys, which kind of it's just again, I mean, Gary Vee, for example, says the same thing over and over again, but it's just reaffirming this kind of positivity and this like get rid of the grey, and it's just black and white, and
nearly all of the Stoic texts are on YouTube as audiobooks.
Really?
So if you look up Seneca or Meditations or those
notes,
those guys, the great works are all done, and there's lectures by people on the Stoic texts. So it's like, here's what he said, here's a modern interpretation, because some of them are a little bit. The surface of them is pretty complicated because it was so long ago, and the language used is a little bit odd. So it can be helpful to have sometimes kind of an interpreter that says, look,
like
here's
reading Shakespeare.
Yeah, a bit like it, not as in need of it's not called translation, interpretation as Shakespeare would be, but not that far off. So And there are courses. I got introduced to all this stuff on the Oxford University, do these continuing education courses for adults that are remote learning.
Right.
I did an introduction to philosophy and with that, and it was just changed so many things in my world, like the whole thinking on that level. I'd never done it before in my life. I'd read a lot, but I'd never come across this, like really thinking about how we feel and how we perceive stuff, and how important it is that the way you see it and the way you see it and the way you see it and the way I see it is completely different, and that's okay.
Yeah.
That's what happens. That's why we're different.
Yeah.
And the thing about philosophy is, whether we like it or not, our lives are built on a foundation of philosophy, and lots of times that's pretty sketchy. Like whatever your philosophy is, it might be really sketchy. So you wouldn't build a house on sand.
No.
You've got to have a foundation, and you know maybe your foundation is solid, but you want to find out before.
Well, learning about all of that stuff and ethics, that's a really interesting part of philosophy, is like really defining what you believe in and what you feel. You know, there's so many elements and so many difficult questions that when you really think about it, it's like, is it okay to, I don't know, eat meat, or kill somebody that's done something really wrong, and the first reaction is, of course, but then if you actually really think about it ethically, where's the balance there? You know.
Well, and the thing about the initial, the brain has kind of two different what do they call it now? There's a book, and I forget the name of it and the author because my mind is like that. But you have basically two processes. There's the lazy one, which uses all of your experience in similar situations and gives you a knee-jerk reaction.
Like Blink or one of those.
It's and it basically it's so that you don't use loads of energy.
No. The thing is, it's all this. I like don't want to go. It's just, you know what I mean? You just like chatted here. In my head, this podcast was going to go on a completely different tangent. We've hardly touched on guitar really, or any of that stuff. But this is amazing. It's just like
thinking fast and slow. It's called.
Oh yeah. Yes.
Anyway, so your brain is designed to do that, because otherwise it would just be completely exhausted. And so, but you then have to force the other side, the system too, to start thinking through what all of the implications are to your knee-jerk reaction. And that's when you know.
But we've been trained for that stuff. Like we've evolved in a way that we have to rely on certain triggers to make us act in a certain way. A shadow of a cat in a bush goes back to tigers or whatever. So if something moves out that window while I'm talking to you, there's a little part of my brain that's going like, what was that? You know, and we can't help it. It's good.
It's
but
like
we
cats
have
with
to
cucumbers, because they think they're snakes, isn't it?
I've tried that. I've tried the cucumber, but my cats couldn't care less.
Oh, no,
it's a cucumber, man. What are you doing?
Stoned most of the time.
Maybe it's a certain type of
don't
philosophy that the cat has to have be scared of cucumber. Philosophical cats.
Maybe.
Now that's like our likes have gone through the roof. We've mentioned cats.
And dogs.
We did
dogs. My poor little Ziggy. You want to wake up? Do you want to come and... If we got a camera over
Ziggy, one here, one here.
Come here. Ziggy, come and say hello to the people. Come on.
Now you want me.
Come here. Oh, I'm not. Oh, here you are. Look.
The cutest thing.
Say hello. Wave to the camera. Hello. Hey? She's like, I'm not feeling my best, Daddy. What are you doing? Put me on your lap. You've been very good girl, though, haven't you? Hey?
Yeah, super well behaved.
She's been great, haven't you? Hey?
Now we just need a picture of a cat doing a handstand.
Cat doing a handstand. Ziggy, can you go and find us a cat? You want to go and get a cat?
And also convince them to do a handstand.
Yeah, that might be the trickiest part.
All right, well, we can do that.
Okay, well, let's save it up for a part 2.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
We'll hit all of that. So, okay, Ziggs, I'm going to put you down there, but don't panic.
Yeah, guitar, philosophy, beer, and song.
Yes.
Yeah.
Amen. In Hanwell, maybe.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah. Well, it's got to be, there must be loads of them down near you, like breweries.
Yeah, well, I walked past one yesterday called the French Brewery, which is beautiful, crafty beer stuff.
Okay.
And a pub, which is, when people visit me, I usually go take them for a pub lunch. That pub has a brewery attached, which makes its own ales and lagers, which are really good.
But we'll get in the truck and go down.
Yeah. We'll get the train, and then I'll get us in a cab from there so we can have a drink rather than, because that's the other problem with the drive down. Then
yeah. And trebuchet back.
Yeah. But we'll figure it out. We'll
we will
get that one.
Well, thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Fascinating chat.
Yeah.
Thanks for sorting out my EV3 and making me a glorious amplifier,
Yeah.
which I'm super looking forward to.
I plugged it in
going.
this morning. It sounds really good.
Good.
Yeah.
That's-
You
yeah.
sound surprised.
I,
Well, I mean, they're usually horrible.
I'm constantly surprised when I plug in and it sounds good.
Yeah.
I don't know why. It's a bit weird.
Retain that magic. Retain that
Yeah,
magic.
confidence in your stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
stuff.
Wicked.
Okay.
It's a wrap.
Nice
Thank you.
one. Bye.